everyone, just letting everyone in. So welcome to our second to last live stream of 2020 Summer Symphony. Um, we are here today with Dylan and Mia, our wonderful student conductors. Um, I hear like a weird vacuum sound. Does anyone else? Oh,
Does
okay.
that fix it?
It's just your background noise. It should be fine.
Okay, one
Um,
sec.
it's fine. So just to go over a few rules, I think all of you guys know like Zoom rules already. We encourage you to turn your cameras on. Um, do I have to introduce myself? I don't think so. I'm Esther. You guys are all familiar faces. And today we are going to talk about tips for college apps and why music helped these two wonderful individuals with their college apps. So, if you guys can go ahead, introduce yourself, talk about both your musical, like on your instrument private studies, as well as like where you went to school, how you were schooled, and yeah, just go ahead, either one of
Okay,
you.
I'll go first, me, if that's okay. Okay, sick. I'll take that as yes. My name is Dylan. I was a conductor last year, so if you're here last year, you probably remember me. I'm going to UC Santa Barbara. I'm majoring in flute performance, so that's what my application process entailed. I went to public school, Mira Mesa High School, my whole life. I did kind of normal academics. We can get into that later. And then I was studying flute and piano ever since I was a kid, basically. So yeah, that's my academic background.
All right, I'll go next. Hi everyone, I'm Mia. This would have been my fourth year with the Carmel Valley Summer Symphony as a conductor. My educational background, I was homeschooled my entire life, except for the first 2 months of my freshman year of high school. I went to Coronado School for the Performing Arts. I will be a rising freshman at UC Irvine this fall. I'm currently undeclared, but I will be, yes, I will be probably majoring in bio because I'm going pre-med.
Well, cool. And Mia, you're also thinking about conducting on the side as well, right?
Lots of conducting on the side, yeah.
Yes. So originally this call was supposed to have me as a speaker, but I thought it would be great if our audience members could hear some different perspectives. Um, and I just wanted to mod you guys because you guys are my friends and it'd be fun to ask you questions. So at any time in this call, if you want to ask questions, feel free to just unmute or go in the chat and type it if you're shyer. um, so I'll start with a few pre-submitted questions for you guys, and then we can get into some chat questions maybe if they come up. Um, so let me see. Can you guys first go over like specific music experiences you had? So like example STYS and stuff you did that you think helped you with your college application process?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. I think one of the biggest things that helped me were master classes. So I went to a lot of master classes, and a lot of professors who teach at these universities that you want to apply to will hold their own master classes. So like I was applying to USC and Colburn, and both have the same instructor, Jim Walker. And so I found that he had his own summer master class that I went and attended, and that was super informative for me and really helped me make a better decision about where I wanted to go. I also did that with Santa Barbara. So anywhere you can like find some interaction with a teacher at that school is going to be really beneficial, I think. Also, just normal stuff like Idlewild Arts or San Diego Symphony. Those are all great things to do as well, along with Carmel Valley Summer Symphony. It's just great to get more experience. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Shout out to Summer Symphony for everything. I swear, that's like my favorite part of my musical experience. So I started playing music or studying music, I guess, when I was 8, which is pretty late, I think, in terms of when most people start. I started with piano. The year after that, I picked up violin, and then the year after that, I picked up flute. So just a lot of private lessons, I've studied with a lot of different people, done a lot of different master classes. That's super helpful, like what Dylan said. And then I've done some music camps, like specifically Hausman Quartet, Bravo International Music Academy. That was when it was hosted at SDSU. And yeah, SDYS as well. That's super, super big part of my life. Did that for 8 years. And was in leadership positions for the last 4 years. Let's see what else. In terms of conducting, my experience has been more recent with that. So the seminars that I've been to are Los Angeles Conducting Institute, which was mainly just for like adults and people who have been professionals. So I was just there to watch and learn. And then this year I was supposed to go to Tanglewood for conducting, but that was canceled because of the virus. And last month I just finished up with Curtis.
Great, thank you. So maybe this is a question a little bit more meant for Dylan because Mia was homeschooled. Can you talk a little bit about the types of classes you took? A lot of our audience members are maybe going into high school or in high school right now. So, AP balance, STEM classes, like what in general, like was the summary?
Yeah, I had so I'll talk mainly about my junior and senior years, is because, or sorry, sophomore and junior years, because I think that's what colleges look at the most. But I didn't have a super crazy schedule or anything like that. I kind of took, you know, everyone always wants to take a million AP classes and honors because it'll look good on your resume, which it will, but you might burn yourself out and do worse than you would if you just took less. So like for my sophomore year, I took AP World, which is like standard at my school. I just took Advanced English 3-4, Integrated Math 3 Advanced, Honors Chemistry, AP Music Theory, and Band. My school was lucky enough to have AP Music Theory, so I took that for like 3 years and just studied individually the other 2 years, which was super cool. I was really lucky to have that, but I understand a lot of people might not have that option depending on where you go. So yeah, that year I only took two APs. So it was super light load, and then two honor classes. And my junior year, I took honors U.S. history, AP Lang, AP Calculus AB, honors physio, AP Music Theory, and band again. So that was a little heavier course load because I know junior year is going to be like the heavy hitter year, I guess, out of your 4 years at high school. Um, AP Music Theory again was a great option for me. All my friends were taking AP US, which I decided not to do just because I wanted to focus mainly on my college apps. And I think that was a really great decision just to take Honors US instead of AP US because that was a tough course at my school. Like, again, it's different for all schools. So it depends. Talk to your friends who are a year older or any siblings you have maybe and find out which classes are kind of going to be the good ones to take for you. And then my senior year, I took a lot of college courses, or not a lot. I took two college courses, which is another thing my high school offered, which was awesome. And that's really it. But for math, I guess like calculus, because I love math. Math is kind of my thing. So AB was, I think it's if you have a good teacher, it's definitely doable to take the BC test when you learn AB, like your first year of calculus, because it's only like two more chapters extra that's on the BC test. And that's what I did, and I think that gave me a good leg up to not have to do calculus next year or the year after I took AB. So I would highly recommend that anybody who's doing calculus AB just to self study for BC. It's not a whole lot of work. If you feel like maybe your teacher isn't the strongest or you're not grasping the concepts that well throughout most of the year, then of course don't do that. But that's just one suggestion I have. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. He brings up a really good point that colleges do kind of focus in on your sophomore and junior years of high school. So that's not something we've mentioned before. And Chris had a question in the chat for both of you. Did you find it hard for symphony members to take you seriously as a conductor being around, the same age as us? And how did you foster cooperation without being, an intimidating, super scary director?
Yeah,
I
that's a
love
great
this
question.
question.
Do you want to go first or should I? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think it's interesting, for sure. Like my first year with the Summer Symphony, the first time I got up on the podium, I was so scared and nervous. And I'm so used to being that person in the orchestra that's just like fun loving, like let's mess around all the time. And so it's really hard for me to sort of, you know, switch gears and turn into the person that was more, all right, we have a rehearsal to run, like we need to get through certain things. And even now I'm still trying to learn how to create that schedule for myself, and also that mentality where I'm focused on the material and not just goofing around with friends. And it's really hard too when I know everyone in the orchestra and we're all like, we all have like close friendships. In terms of fostering cooperation without being the super scary director, I don't know if anyone actually sees me as a super scary director. I hope that I haven't put off that vibe. If I have, I'm really sorry. Like, that is the complete opposite of what I'm going for. And I'm sure it's the same for Dylan. There is a difference between being super scary and then just, what is the word I'm looking for right now? Like direct. But yeah, you can add to that.
Yeah, I felt everything she said. This is a really good question because if you're conducting a group of people that are around your age, then you have to recognize that you are kind of in the same group, if you will. Like you're not a superior in any way, so you don't want to see yourself that way. I think the best thing you can do to get people to take you seriously is just to know your stuff and be confident. So, kind of be strong in your knowledge about the music that you're performing and kind of demonstrate that with what you say and what you want. And the students will kind of grasp onto you. If you come up to the podium and you seem a little not there, you're a little nervous. Like it's fine to be nervous, but I think if the best way to communicate what you want is just to really understand and do your preparation work beforehand. Fostering cooperation without being super scary, that's a good. You want to strike a balance because you want to have a little bit of intimidation if you need it. If people aren't behaving, not to say everybody was always really well behaved in our rehearsals, which was awesome. But I can definitely imagine scenarios where people weren't well behaved, and you do have to be scary at sometimes if that's happening. If you're a professional conductor with a professional symphony orchestra, that's never going to happen. Um, how do you prefer conducting when you're not at the podium? Oh yeah, this is great. Score study is huge. That's awesome. You can just go IMSLP and look at the scores. I would watch other conductors conduct and also watch other conductors teach. There's a lot of conducting master classes on YouTube, and you can see how conductors do it and talk. Because so much is not just in the motions you make on the podium. It's a lot about what you say as well and how you communicate to these kids. And so when you're not on the podium, I would definitely pick up a score. Envision the conductor's intentions, add your own style. That's all just personal. I think that comes the more you study music and the more recordings you listen to, the more interpretations you're going to hear, and then you can kind of just skew off your own interpretation from those. I don't know if Mia had anything to add to this question.
Yeah, of course. This is something that everyone talks about as a conductor at every skill level, even as professionals. It's something that's just score interpretation and analysis are really, really big things, and everyone approaches it differently. So I worked with 3 different professional conductors over the summer, and every time I met with them, I asked them, how do you approach this? How do you approach interpretation and analysis? Some people sit down with just the score and they read it like a book. Some people listen to a recording first. Usually that's not the case, but some people do. I find myself gravitating a little bit more to that as well, since looking at a score is a little bit intimidating for me since there's so many parts, and it's easier to pick things out with the music, but then also then decides for you what your interpretation may be after that. Envisioning the conductor's intentions. Okay. Wait, Chris, what do you mean by this? The composers? Okay. So a big thing behind this is that you will continue to learn it throughout your career. You want to do a lot of reading about performance practice, history, culture, and this is something that Mr. Palacios was talking about as well. You need to definitely put yourself in the composer's shoes to be able to convey their intentions, for sure. Make sure that you are doing things according to the score and that you're not thinking, What can I do to make this better? You're thinking, what can I do to really fully capture the intention of this person, and how can I show that to the orchestra, which is one of the hardest things as well. Um,
Sorry about that.
you're totally fine. Um, yeah, which is difficult. And sorry, Cameron in the background. And I'm still learning that as well, for sure. It's really important to just be able to sit down with the score and read it, and then just read about conducting in general, for sure.
If I can add one more thing, I know it's a lot of information we're giving you, but like, just don't make it overly complicated. Just find what you like when you're listening to a recording. If you notice something that sounds interesting to your ear, try and figure out what makes it sound interesting that way, and what about whatever recording's interpretation makes it sound that way. And then you can try and add that into your own interpretation. So it's something that you're going to develop over time. There's no like secret answer we can give you to make your interpretation right. It's just about how you want it.
Yeah, it'll be definitely unique to yourself as a musician.
Yeah, great answers there. Great conducting advice, especially. I think that's really important and unique. Kind of just shifting back to the college application process. You two have very different processes because music major versus bio major. So Dylan, can you talk about more of like the earlier deadlines associated with auditioning and portfolio stuff? And Mia, can you just give a general outline of like your deadlines, like later deadlines for regular decisions and stuff like that?
Yeah, so for music, if you're gonna go into music, it's kind of a lot because you basically have two applications for everything for each school, which is fun. And so most schools are gonna make you turn in your like normal school application on the date that their early release date is. So it's gonna be earlier. Like I forget which exact date it was, but UC's um, and US or sorry, the private schools you had to turn in like 2 months earlier than everyone else, which was sometime in November, I think.
Yeah, November 15th, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Which isn't, it's not, it's very doable if you start earlier. And just know that you kind of do have a lot of work to put in because your normal school application is going to have everything: essays, personal insight questions, blah, blah, blah. And then your supplemental application is going to have your music, maybe more letters of rec, and even maybe more essays, depending on where. So it's different based on everywhere, but I would for sure recommend starting as early as possible and get your letters of rec. Like, ask for your letters of rec way early because they take a really long time, always. Depending on it, it's always going to take a long time.
Yeah, do not spaz out on letters of rec. Do not, if anything, don't procrastinate on asking for a letter of recommendation. Like, yeah, if you choose one thing to not procrastinate on, it's definitely that. For me, I kind of had a unique experience with the college application process because I was homeschooled. I didn't have a school or peers telling me like, this is what you need to do, this is what you should do, this is a good idea to like get involved in, X, Y, and Z. But I did, oh gosh, I feel like I kind of blocked out most of the regular application process stuff because I just didn't want it in my mind. But I did apply to the UC schools, which I think the deadline is November 30th. And then I actually also applied to schools in the UK, which has a deadline in mid-January. And if anyone has specific questions about applying out of the States, I'd totally be open to talking about that. I probably would have gone to the University of Glasgow had it not been for the virus. I think sorry, I'm gonna like go off track a little bit here, but schools in the UK, you're basically gonna be getting an equivalent to an Ivy League education here in the States, but it's way less expensive, and the application for the UK as well is way less expensive than applying to like a single UC school here. It's about, I think it's like $30 US to apply to 4 schools.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, Colburn was like 300. It's insane.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Just music supplements, right? Um, Kind of my follow-up to that. Um, there's a lot of stigma about, is there even a music opportunity in the UC system and stuff like that. Like UCLA and UCSB, I feel like are the more known performance schools. So what would you say about that, Dylan? Like for people who are like, are there even opportunities for me in the UC system?
Oh yeah, there's definitely opportunities. Like you said, UCLA is probably one of the best music schools in California, which makes it one of the best in the nation. So that's definitely like top music school up there. Very hard to get into. And UCSB it's a smaller program, but it is definitely still um, a good option for you, depending on your instrument and the professor there. So you can find opportunities basically at any school that has a program. And it's more about finding someone you're going to work well with and finding a program that's suited for you. Like maybe a massive program like UCLA isn't going to be good for you. You want like individual attention, and maybe to start conducting some smaller stuff. You're not necessarily going to get that first year at a massive school. But if you go somewhere smaller like UC Santa Barbara, then you'll have more individual attention and more options where you can kind of make your own, um, not options, more options for you to make your own kind of experiences and make your own education opportunities.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here as well, really important to do your research on the kind of music that the schools put emphasis on, because I know at UCSD they're more geared towards modern slash contemporary kind of music. And if you are straight up classical all the way, probably not the place you want to go to. I know I've talked to a couple of people who've applied there or worked there, and they've said if you are into classical, they're going to make you like step off of that, you know, yellow brick road or whatever. Like you're not going to be doing exactly what you want to be doing, which might be a good thing. But yeah, definitely do your research into that for sure.
Yeah, great advice. If any of you in the audience have questions about specific schools, I'm sure we've covered a lot of bases between like the three of us. So if you would like to type something in the chat about a specific program you're interested in, go ahead. Going off of that, can you guys talk about, you both grew up in San Diego, you both grew up around, a lot of competition. Just being an SUIS, you probably heard a lot of the stuff from other schools. So what would you say to students in the audience who are kind of, pressured by parents and their friends to like kind of diverge from the music path? There's a lot of pressure to go down an academic path in this community. So what would you say to those students?
Definitely, there is a lot of pushback against music majors because the common consensus is that you can't make money unless you're teaching or doing something like that. So, which is, it's fair to recognize that, but if you come at your family or friends or whoever with a plan, something that you have really thought through, then I think they might have a different response. Like for me, I know I want to be a teacher. I like teaching, and I know there's always going to be opportunities for teaching. Maybe it's not going to be exactly what I want, but I can make it happen with a music degree. And you just have to figure out what's best for you. If you want to, play in an orchestra, go full performance, realize that that's a lot of commitment, and that's going to take a lot of work to get there. And it's not the most guaranteed route, but there is a lot of other options for you in music. Not just teaching. If you don't like teaching, that's okay. There's arranging. There's a lot of work in modern music, like mixing and mastering. If you are more interested in the production side of music, that's also a great option. So, um, yes, there is going to be pushback, and yes, their concerns are valid, but it's a lot more about what you want to do. And I wouldn't recommend doing any major that you feel not 100% about, because in 2 years, you might change your mind. In 2 years, I might change my mind, and I'm still open to other opportunities like that. So I just have to know what's best for me, not what my parents or friends want for me. Oh, and yes, good question. What did he say? Have any of you done the Northwestern music supplements? I actually haven't, but I have heard about Northwestern, and I
Yeah.
know a friend who goes there and loves it. So,
Yeah, I can speak to that too. But Mia, did you want to add on about the, whole pressure?
Yeah, sure. I feel like, my whole life I've been inserted into these highly competitive environments. And I think it's very jarring as a young person to be around so many, high achieving people. Um, but something I can definitely say is don't compare yourself to others, especially during the college application process or even just in high school in general. Um, don't look online for a specific roadmap. There is no roadmap that's going to get you into a certain college that's like guaranteed. And there's no college that's going to get you into, your that doesn't guarantee getting you into like whatever internship you want, career opportunities. So just keep that in mind. Don't get stuck in Reddit junior or senior year. Please do not. Like, try to avoid that as much as possible. I know, like, I ended up like looking through that every day, just like what is going on in the admissions process. And it was so much, it made everything so much more stressful than it really needed to be. Specifically for myself, I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, but you do not need to pay $1 million for fancy test prep. Like, if you, especially if you can't afford it, don't even think about it. Everything you need is online. Khan Academy, everything. Rent SAT prep books. But I know I went to an SAT prep course beginning of my junior year, and I did not understand why I was there. I felt like it was an absolute waste of my time and that it was just social hour, and it was ridiculous. Like, it was 4 hours of my day that I could have spent studying on my own with my own resources. So don't feel pressured to do test prep, especially if it's not the right environment for you and if you don't feel like that's the way that you study or learn, period. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, great answers. And yeah, Reddit and College Confidential are sites you want to avoid. Yeah, don't stress yourself out. Nathan's question was, have any of you done the Northwestern music supplements? I can comment on that one. And then, how do live auditions work for universities too, if they have them this year? Maybe Dylan can comment on that one.
Totally.
Yeah, but for Northwestern, Nathan, if you're gonna do trumpet performance, you're gonna have to first submit a portfolio early November, I believe, for most music schools. So you have to submit a portfolio that has like a few like core pieces. Like, they'll ask for like maybe a concerto, maybe a solo piece like that. Okay, that makes sense. But and then if you submit your portfolio to Northwestern, you also have to submit an application with it. So it's an essay with like why you want to be there, why BNN is for you. And also, it's really important to incorporate, since Northwestern is a dual school with like the actual school itself, the BNN school. It's important to incorporate that you'll be able to handle it as a student to both schools. Even if you're just going for BNN, they still need you to comment on the part of the main school. And for live auditions, I believe they're doing Zoom auditions this year for a lot of the music schools like I applied to last year. But Dylan, maybe you want to comment on that part?
Yeah, so I had like a mix of live auditions and recorded auditions. A lot of this, or like three of the schools I applied to had a first round, which was recorded, and then the second round was live. So if you have recorded auditions this year, which might happen for early decision or Zoom, make sure you have a good setup. Like, you don't need anything crazy, but a nice mic and something else is going to look a lot better than just your phone. Also, dress nicely. Make sure you are like in proper concert attire so you're prepared for your audition. If you have live auditions, it's like a lot of your other auditions that you do. You show up, there's areas where to go, and there's people there helping you who are part of the music program. You'll get your own practice room, uh, and you'll have a lot of time. But I recommend getting there way early. If you can get there a day before and go see the campus before everything, I highly recommend that. That's what I did, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable the day of, because I wasn't like, I showed up and I knew where I was supposed to go instead of walking around the campus, because USC and some of these campuses are really big, so it's a lot helpful to know where you're actually going. And then for most schools, you might have an accompaniment that's assigned to you as well. So you'll have a rehearsal like the day before or the day of. And they just want to get a feeling for how you play. It's not about having perfect notes and all that, perfect intonation. That certainly does help, but it's more about seeing potential and seeing you, your character. So I wouldn't stress about it too much. But yeah, live auditions are super fun, and I hope you guys get to have them this year. But no one really knows at this point, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
I would just add on to that, Nathan. Northwestern, if you are early decisioning, I don't know if you are, according to the chat, but if you do early decision and they do invite you for a live, because you first have to get your application and portfolio approved, And if they invite you for an audition after hearing your recording, they'll do a live audition in December. So I'm not sure if coronavirus will calm down and just early enough for that to happen. But for recordings, like, I mean, follow what Nate said, follow what Dylan said. Like, it should just be dress nice, act appropriately. If you do get to do a live audition in Northwestern, I would, even if you do a recording, I would suggest contacting your professor you want to study with and have a lesson with them, even if it's like over Zoom, because Northwestern is super responsive in terms of that stuff. And it's, if you do go in person, it's cold, so get there early, warm your fingers up. Yeah, for sure you're gonna need quite a lot of time to do that. So if none of you have anything to add on, I'll move on to the next question. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Nathan. What would you guys say were some unique opportunities you think like impacted your resumes or application the most, and how much merit music had on your applications for both of you respectively?
I can go first. So I think it's really important to have a well balanced application, not just all music activities, which is a little bit what mine looks like. But I think some stuff that really helped me is that I did water polo and soccer for 3 years. So they want to see consistency. I should have done them for 4 years, but I didn't, which is okay. But yeah, they like seeing kind of variety. One thing that helped a lot, or well, I don't know, there's no way of knowing what helped a lot, but I think Carmel Valley Summer Symphony was a good one just because I got to talk about how much fun running and organizing that was. Other activities, you can do any type of community service. Like if you can go to a senior center and play some music. If you play piano, that's a good idea. People are always looking for that. Maybe not now, but when coronavirus is gone. Other activities, if you have a job, like my lifeguarding job was good. Anything that shows consistency and a well-rounded person is what they're looking for, I think, at least.
Absolutely. So for myself, I think in terms of consistency, I definitely say SUIS is on that list. Pretty high up there. I was there for 8 years. I also danced ballet for 14 years. And so that's also something I put on my application, as I had, leading roles in ballets with, the company I danced with. In addition to that, I volunteered at Scripps Mercy Hospital and at San Diego Refugee Tutoring as well, which is great. If you guys want to learn about that, I am more than happy to send information your way. Really great organization. And then, yeah, for sure, Carmel Valley Summer Symphony.
Summer Symphony plug. Yeah, so the Columbia Music application is a separate supplement, Nathan. That's just a quick answer. It's a separate supplement you submit through the app called Slide Room, which is like a $5 to $12 edition. And they just want to hear one piece you're good at. That was just a quick answer, so I'll answer that. So it's live if you get invited, and but for Columbia, you can only like go audition if that's your only major you're applying for. I hope that answers your question. So for you guys, the audience members, a lot of them are juniors and they're writing their essays right now. So what are some tips that personally helped you? You can share examples of stuff that was in your essays. What are some specific tips you would give essay writers right now?
My school held like an essay clinic for college apps, which is awesome. And I think you should talk to your counselors to see if you have any of those because that was very helpful. He had some great tips. But one thing in your essays, in any essay, if you can find this, they're looking for you overcoming adversity. So anytime you struggled or got knocked down and came back up, that's what they're looking for. So for me, like I talked about, because I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I talked about my diagnosis and all that, which was good, I think, and I could relate to it personally, obviously. So anything that you feel closely connected to that shows you overcoming adversity is great. And that doesn't mean make all your essays like that. Certainly, they want to see again well-rounded application. But if you can fit that in somewhere, I think that's good.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I'll just be echoing that. But then also talking about, unique experiences of yours, something that is, just unique to yourself. I talked a lot about being homeschooled, about dancing. I got pretty severely injured when I was 12, so I talked about that as well, and then finding myself per se through music. Um, so yeah, just talk about yourself. Don't freak out about it. And don't like search too much for templates online as well.
Yeah, one thing is that this is what my essay instructor said when I went to this class our school had, and he's like, every essay reads the same when you do this for a living. Like they're reading like thousands and thousands of essays. So you don't want to try all the stereotypical stuff that makes you seem really smart or cool or anything like that. You just want to be yourself and talk about what's unique to you. Because they're really looking for something that's good but also different. If you just follow the same structure as every other kid trying to get into the school, you're not going to stand out to them.
Can you guys talk about, if you are comfortable, can you talk about some of the colleges you did choose to apply to? And then also, once you guys got in, how you chose where you're going?
Yeah, so I applied to 7 schools, which I think is a good number. I had friends that applied to like 12, which is way too much, I think, and I think you're just kind of screwing yourself over with too much work at that point. But I applied to Colburn, San Diego State, UNT, which is University of North Texas, NYU, UC Santa Barbara, and USC and UCLA. So those are the ones that I applied to. And that has a range of like safe schools that I think I would get into, and then really high reach schools where I don't know if I'm getting in at all, but it was still good to go for. I got accepted to Santa Barbara, NYU, UNT, San Diego State, and that's it. I also got on the wait list for UCLA, but I got straight up rejected from USC and Colburn, which is fine because those were my reach schools, and I kind of knew that going into there. And I got to the second round, which was an achievement for me. So I felt good about those. But making the final decision, I really had to think about what was going to make sense financially and where I wanted to be, like, geographically. I wish I thought about that more before I applied because I just didn't see myself going to New York. It's a lot of money and it's very far away. It would have been really cool, but after I got accepted, it just was kind of clear to me that that wasn't in the cards for me. North Texas would have been really cool. Same with San Diego State, but I just felt like the best option because I wanted to get away from where I had lived my whole life. And so I felt like Santa Barbara was the best option for me. Also got a scholarship, which really helps financially. Um, and if I could give any advice to juniors who are just now thinking about what schools they want to apply to, really try and envision yourself there before you do all the work of putting in the application because once you get accepted and you actually have to make the decision of where to go, you don't want there to be some factors you didn't think about preventing you from going to a school that you wanted to go to. So just try and consider everything financially, geographically, all that.
Exactly. I again, I kind of blocked this out and I did apply to a lot of schools. And so please do take Dylan's advice for this because if you apply to, I, I don't know, a lot of schools, it's just a waste of your time and money at that point. It is extremely expensive to apply to schools. And so if you apply to too many, just don't do it. I'm saying that from experience. So I applied to a lot of CSU and UC schools. I didn't know what was going to happen because as a homeschooler, it's really uncertain. And I heard a lot of different accounts from different people about how being homeschooled impacts your college application process. And from some people, I heard you're not going to get in anywhere. And from others, I heard this is great. You look unique. Colleges will definitely want that. So I just didn't know. So I had a lot of safety schools on there. When I did get accepted into the schools that I had applied to, I think it was pretty clear to me that UCI was going to be a good fit. Like I said, I'm a dancer, I'm a musician, and then I'm also interested in pre-med. So they have incredible music and dance programs as well as clubs at UCI. And then, research school. In addition to that, I think COVID definitely impacted my decision because, like I said, I probably would have gone to a school in the UK had it not been for COVID. So yeah, UCI was just closer to home, closer to my family in case anything should happen. I was going to be here. So yeah.
Yeah, I would
One
just
last thing. Sorry, one last thing. I just forgot to say this, but definitely try and visit the campus if you can. I think that's a really big thing, because sometimes you can just tell like the vibe. You just walk on campus and you're like, oh wow, I really like it here. I could see myself here. And other times it's like, it's not doing it for me. It's too cramped or whatever. Just try and visit. Sometimes it's not possible, but definitely try.
I would just add, as a junior, especially going to CCA, I think there's a common mindset that, oh, if I just apply everywhere, whatever, like as long as I get in somewhere, I'll go there. Like that is such a bad mentality, not only for you, but your parents' bank account. Each school costs like $100 to apply to. And Dylan really called me out. Like I applied to like a obscene amount of schools. So like it is like at the end of the day you will have options. I think it's really good that they mentioned you apply to some safety schools, you apply to some target schools and some reach schools. And at the end of the day, like you're gonna be spending the next 4 years of your life, not just like studying. You're spending the 4 years of your life with friends and like growing as a human being. So it's really important to envision that. um yeah, I was actually the next question is kind of going off of your point, Mia, with COVID. What would you say, especially for this year's applicants during COVID when they're facing the most unprecedented like application cycle in history? What are some like key pieces of advice that you experienced that you think still apply to them? And like what would you just tell them about the whole situation?
Well, it's tough because no one really knows what's going to happen or how it's going to change. But I would definitely take this time or take advantage of the fact that you can get closer to the professors in some ways, I guess. They have more time on their hands. They're not teaching in person all the time. So reach out to them, see if you can schedule a Zoom meeting. They're all doing Zoom lessons anyway, so they have it set up. Um, Other than that, it's difficult to say what to do, but I think it's clear that we all have a lot more time now to ourselves. Maybe some people don't, I can see, but I think it's really important to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself strong in here and in here, because with all this time, it also comes with a lot of thinking. And if you're not too sure about your decisions or all this, then it's a good time to think about it. It's also a good time to practice a lot. So try and set a set amount of time you want to practice each day, and really try and keep it daily because that's going to help a lot with your kind of structure and strength in your playing. But other than that, I would just take advantage of the fact that everyone's reaching out for opportunities now, including the teachers.
For sure. I'd say definitely look at this time right now as a time for growth. Um, a positive rather than a negative, I guess. And like create a routine for yourself and a schedule. I feel like right now I'm like working, I'm a crazy like schedule person. So I have like 3 different notebooks out at every point in time. And then I like bought myself a calendar just to keep up with school and to make sure I'm on track with everything. I'd say definitely do that, like for sure, just so you know where you're at in terms of the application process and you hold yourself accountable, like you're on time with everything. Don't stress out, breathe, it's going to be okay. Colleges are really understanding right now, and I'm seeing that a lot with UCI. My professors are really super accommodating, and they want to hear from you. Like everyone has their camera turned off during, like you can see right now, like this is a pretty good example of what a lecture looks like for me, like during summer school. And your professor wants to hear from you. Like they're happy. Like if you want to reach out to teachers, whatever, do it. Right now is the time because people have time. Like I'm right now reaching out to connections in New York for conducting. Like people have time. Just do it. Reach out.
Yeah. Well, since we're kind of like nearing the end of the session, I'll kind of start asking lighter questions that were submitted. What would you say? I don't think I can say your favorite part and your least favorite part, but what would you say like you know, the like least burdensome and then like most burdensome parts of the application process were?
Okay, let me think for a second. I would say the most burdensome part is like not getting what you want. Like, because I really wanted to get into UCLA, and then I got waitlisted, which definitely felt pretty bad. Um, so that was one of the harder parts. One of my favorite parts, I think, is the audition process. Actually, I really liked auditioning and going to all the schools. Just seeing the campuses of all the different schools is like really inspiring, and it makes you feel cool that you're taking this big leap from high school to college, and that's something definitely to celebrate. Um, but the hardest part before getting all your decisions is just it feels like a big cloud. Well, this is at least what it felt like for me when it was just starting, like when my applications were due in 2 months. It was like this big looming cloud just coming my way that I had to address eventually. And so, what you got to do is just kind of start picking it out piece by piece and doing a little bit today, do 15 minutes tomorrow, and it'll all slowly come together. So, that's just the biggest part, or sorry, the scariest part for me is seeing how big the whole process is. Um, but it's definitely very manageable if you just schedule it out and do a little bit each day.
Yeah. I guess just adding to that, I love that idea of the advancing cloud because that's definitely what it felt like. I had really severe anxiety with the entire process up to, getting accepted into schools. Um, I don't know. I mean, everything felt like a burden, so I can't say anything like specific except for writing essays. That was terrifying because I never knew if what I was doing was good enough. But I was also just comparing myself to other people the entire time. So it was never going to be good enough, like no matter what I did. So just keep that in mind. Like, please don't compare yourself to other people or to other essays. Like, I had an aunt who actually gave me 50 essays for like people who were accepted into Harvard. And I was like, wow, thanks. Just like not helpful at all. Just relax. This is your time to just shine and show colleges how amazing of a person that you are. And just don't compare yourself to anyone. Don't let anyone get you down.
Yeah, great advice. This is kind of fast tracking to March for a lot of the juniors, but everyone gets like rejected from schools. I don't think I heard of one person who got into all the schools they applied to unless they only applied to, safeties. So what would you just tell people who are getting rejected, and like are feeling down? What are your best pieces of advice for people who aren't hearing maybe what they want to hear?
Yeah, it's important to realize that if you get rejected, then it just wasn't the path for you at the time. And that there's going to be a good path for you, and it's going to all work out in the end. And even if you had wanted to go to UCLA ever since you were, like 6 years old or something, and then you get waitlisted and you get super close, that just wasn't the path for you at the time. And there's going to be other opportunities for you. And all it is you can see it as motivation to get better. Maybe if you think that like, and that's not saying that if you don't get in you're not good enough, because plenty of times you are good enough and there's other circumstances for whatever reason they can't accept you. Like this year I think they only accepted one flutist. Like there's not much I can do to influence that, and so I just have to deal with it and move on, which is totally okay. And I've used it as inspiration for me to work harder in the future. So know that rejection probably is going to happen in some form or the other, and I definitely wouldn't put it all on yourself. There's other factors there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's bound to happen. I definitely had like 100% a pessimistic attitude towards everything. So I expected everything to be a rejection, which I don't know if it's a good thing for everyone to just expect that. But it definitely made the rejections that I got a little bit less of a blow. Um, when you do get rejected, though, um, just understand that school was not the thing that was going to get you to be the person that you want to become. And once you do choose the school that you want to go to, try to find ways to make the most of your experience there. And do a lot of research, get involved in a lot of different things, and create that path that you thought you were going to have, or change it in certain ways so that you do feel like you're progressing?
Yeah. I'm just gonna add in like a little thing to Dylan's story. Like and Dylan stuff, like college is a lottery for sure. In this day and age, there are things like legacy involved for musicians, as he was saying. There's like a cap on numbers of instruments they want. So like that year, they might want one violinist, and then the next year, a ton of people graduate, so they want like 15. So like it's just not up to you. And kind of a personal note, I'm going to UC Berkeley, and UC Berkeley 1 year ago, I said, I'm not applying. I hate that school. I'm never going to go there, and look where I'm going. So like you never know what it's like. I hadn't done my research into UC Berkeley until I got in, and I was like, wow, this is a very feasible, cheaper option for me. And it's not like I got rejected by every other school. I chose this place because I really want to go now. So it is just an unexpected journey. I know there's so many people on you all the time about like, oh, where are you going? What school, like what reputation does that school have? And it is just so individualistic for so many people. And you have to consider, I don't think for you guys, I don't think people actually consider like finances until you get into your senior year. Like, did you feel that? Yeah. So like it doesn't really feel like a real thing that's happening until afterwards. So like just know that it's gonna be different for everyone. Yeah. Um I got one question privately. Anthony asks, how many schools should you apply to? Also, what should be the number of safety and harder schools? I'll let you guys answer that.
Totally up to you. Do what you feel is right. So, for me, I didn't even count it out. I don't know how many safety schools I had. I just chose schools that felt right to me, and so I think 7 or 6 is a good number to do. But again, if you, some people have different brains and we just function differently. If you have like some people call it like the wind brain, where it changes directions really fast and you can focus on a million things at once, then maybe having multiple, like a lot of different applications to do is good for you. But for me, I'm like a fire brain, so I like to slowly burn on one thing. So I just kind of moved on slowly like that, and I had to deal with less schools. But it's all up to you. There's no perfect number for you. But like two each, that's my guess. I don't know. It's still up to you then.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add to that. There's no magic number of safety schools or reach schools. Consider the money factor for sure. Understand not just how much it's going to be to apply to the school, but then how much it's going to be to go to that school. For sure. Like, because my parents didn't know at all. And when I was like, oh, look at these schools on the East Coast, like NYU, my mom looked at the tuition and she went, absolutely not. You are more than welcome to apply, but you are never going there. So definitely take that, into account.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing that's really important to Anthony is that you do have some safety schools, some target schools, some reach schools, but because you want to set yourself up for like the best chance you got, and also have fallbacks just in case, that year's cycle is just totally unpredictable. So yeah, I would say maximize your number of targets, especially for years like this one. Like the reach numbers change every single year. I also told you on the Common App, I believe there's a maximum of 20 schools. So don't go over 20 schools. And I'm not sure if for UCs you can apply, the UC application is just one application and you can choose how many schools you want. So I think I applied to like 6 UCs and everyone's numbers differ. Yeah, so we have 5 minutes left. So I wanted to ask you guys a fun question. What was your, it doesn't have to be Summer Symphony, but it'd be cute if it was. What was your favorite memory that you thought like was, you didn't have to like write it on your essay, but you think was like essay worthy, and it's just like one of your favorite stories to tell within your music experience, hopefully. You
Let
don't
me
have
think
to,
for a sec.
yeah, it's hard to
There are
single.
too many.
You have to give one though. You got to think. I would definitely say Summer Symphony. That's definitely one of them up there.
Just
Just
as a
because,
whole.
yeah, as a whole, because I got to work with organizing it, and then I also got to conduct, which was huge. I never got to conduct a symphony before, so that was awesome. But there's definitely more. Just let me think for a second.
Okay, I'll jump in then. Summer Symphony for sure. Just to add the cute factor there. Um, I think it's been great for me to work with people over the last 3 years, like consistently, and then make those like bonds with everyone. And it just makes the experience like so much better. I love working with my friends, and just to be up on the podium, it's such a unique experience. And I hope everyone gets to experience that, like at some point in their musical career, even if it's just like fun, like you're just messing around, get up on the podium. Like you need to feel that amazing feeling of being up on the podium. Aside from that, I think the first time I ever conducted was my freshman year of high school, end of my freshman year in high school. And I conducted the Ovation Chamber Ensemble with Jeff had taught me and Amanda in a seminar, and he was like, all right, let's just put you up on the podium and you can conduct this overture. I remember getting up there and just thinking, oh my gosh, I have to continue to do this. This is just too cool. Like, too cool.
Okay, I thought of mine. I got to teach. Well, I wanted to teach piano. So like the last couple of years, not anymore. It's really sad. But last couple of years, I've been teaching piano to really young kids, and so I have like 3 students, and one of them's a 6-year-old adorable little girl named Soraya. And just getting to teach small kids has taught me so much. So I definitely wrote about that on my application, because I used to not like kids, and I think a lot of people, especially our age, like just say they don't like kids because they're annoying or whatever. But no, Soraya taught me new things every day, and still is. I still think about her all the time. So yeah, that's my one musical experience.
Teaching is the best form of learning. Um, I'll just add, since we're ending out the call, one of my favorite memories was just seeing you two up on the podium, like conducting the orchestra, and I'm like, wow, those two people are my age, and they are killing it on stage. Like when we ended the concert last year with those flowers and Dan's on, and Dylan conducted that last beat, I was like, this is like everything I've ever dreamed of, you know? Um, so yeah, we're closing out the session. If anyone has like any last minute questions, feel free to chat them or just unmute and talk to these guys. Um, if not, we will for sure end the call. I want to thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Mia, for joining us today. Um, thanks for some incredible advice. I can definitely, uh, Nathan, do you have something to say?
I love you, Dylan. Thank you.
I love you too, Nathan. I miss you so much.
Yeah, I can definitely leave their contact info if you guys do want to ask them any further questions, as well as mine. And otherwise, you guys feel free to leave the call. I will answer Anthony's private question later. But yeah, feel free to leave the call. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you guys. You guys